Damn. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Braeden YouTube channel. As you saw recently, we had some stuff going on with the Z and then a little bit of the Fury sprinkled in there, a little bit of the Civic. But before that, we had the Champ Car in there. And for those of you who don't know, Champ Car is the endurance racing series that me and 4 other guys race in. That car is completely taken apart. If you haven't seen it, jump back and watch those videos. Some of them got some pretty entertaining and informative stuff in them. But moving forward, we have 72 days until our first race at Mid-Ohio. Now, we consider the car a Champ Car, but that race is with the AER, so that's American Endurance Racing. There's some pretty wicked units in that race, so we got to have this car tip-top to even keep from being a speed bump. So we have 72 days until that race. It's October 23rd. We got to get busy. I have the first step of the things I have to do down here. Today I don't have any video of it, but James and Dan did a little bit of weight reduction and cleaned up the interior and the engine bay, you know, just to get the grease and stuff from all the oil explosions we've dealt with and basically undo a few races worth of garbage in that car. So they got that taken care of today. Now I need to get busy on my stuff, and step 1 is as follows. Let's go get busy. So in here, in my wiring studio, I like to call it, I have the engine harness off of the Turbo D16 Y8, and it is just chilling here. I wanted to clean it up a little bit because there's a lot of oil and grease grime on it, so I'm going to hose it down, get it cleaned up some, but then there's stuff like this going on that I need to repair real quick, where the loom has popped out of basically where I had the zip tie. It was already really close, so I did what I could, but it since has kind of given up on us. This kind of doesn't really need loom to begin with, but I'm going to clean that up, and then I'm also going to try and make this area a little bit more compact, because these junctions right here, I'll explain these when we get into them. They're actually kind of interesting and a lot of people don't know what they do. It's called a junction connector. We will fix that and make them much smaller, so that'll be an interesting part of the video. But first step is to get this cleaned up and get it ready to go back on the engine, because the engine will be the first thing to go back in the chassis when we get what we have to do done with it. We're going to do some paint and stuff, but yeah, so my job first is get this engine harness kind of up to par, and then the next step is over here. Alright, so don't mind the weird paint in this room. This was a kid's room, the last owners, and I haven't repainted it yet, so ignore all of that. But this is the Champ Car stuff that we have going on right now. My main priority is to keep working on that dash. I've already got a bunch of stuff done on it, and I had a bunch of video of James and I doing these panels for the dash. It actually looks really good, but I lost them. I don't know what happened, but sadly they're gone, so I'll kind of have to catch everybody up on this, but this will be phase 2 of what I have going on before we can start wiring the rest of the car. Now, this dash is going to be pretty sick when it's done. I'm actually really excited to keep working on it. Then, if I can get all of that done in a reasonable amount of time, the team bought a 1997, I think, Civic EX Coupe automatic. And that is for this next project that I am super excited about and something I've wanted to try for a very long time. So I'm going to make this a very quick explanation so that we can move on to the more important stuff, because this goes super deep and it will take probably a couple of videos to explain what I'm trying to do. That Civic Coupe that we bought has a transmission in it just like this. Now, getting away from that and speaking more to this transmission here has a bunch of used pressure sensors on it that I added, you know, for mainline gears 1, 3, and 4 and gear 2 pressure sensors. We have main shaft speed sensor, counter shaft speed sensor, we have linear solenoid, shift solenoids A and B, lockup solenoids A and B. All of that will be controlled by this little guy right here called an Arduino Do. It's a pretty powerful little Arduino. It will also control this relay board because it can't spit out a signal strong enough to turn on the solenoids. We have pulse width modulator, a pulse width modulated output. Hopefully that works with it. I have to figure that out. And then we have a DC-DC converter here that kind of isn't super important, but those are the components, along with a variable reluctance sensor converter to convert it into a square wave so this can read it. But regardless, the idea is to use these components here to convert that to gear hold paddle shift, and what that means is it goes into whatever gear we tell it. And the reason just switches alone won't work is this guy right here will spoof signals to the HON data to retard timing and limit power between gear shifts, and then there's a couple of parts that I'll put in there to make that transmission a little stronger. But that is a project I'm super stoked about, and if it works on this one, because these transmissions are like, you can find them for like 50 bucks. Like, they're super cheap. They don't even have to be in that great a shape for testing initially, but moving forward, I will have a good one for the car. But yeah, that's the idea here, is try and convert an old crappy 4-speed automatic for a Civic that's, you know, one of the least inspiring transmissions ever produced by mankind, and make it a pretty fun transmission. And with the help of that little control unit and some mechanical parts within to boost line pressure and some good tuning, we might be able to make that little transmission a fun little guy to drive. So that's a later project. First, I got to get the rest of my stuff done, but stay tuned for that one. That'll be pretty cool. But for now, let's go get started on the harness and get the stuff that we have to have done ready to go back in the car ASAP, because race season is coming. So let's get to it. So the progress that has been made so far, as you can see right here, I've got electrical tape wrapped around this semi-rigid stuff's called W5DL, semi-rigid adhesive line shrink wrap. This right here is nothing but a patch. So start your electrical tape here, wrap it super tight, then wrap it out to give it some width, and then wrap it back over, wrap it super tight again, and throw a zip tie around it so it can't come loose, and you kind of have yourself a makeshift patch boot. I did that because this flex loom started kind of like fraying out of that adhesive line shrink wrap. I didn't put it up high enough, so that is my fault, but it is what it is. This guy here, I took the shrink wrap off of him and the flex loom off of him. Didn't really need it. This is just engine grounds and shield drain grounds. It really isn't in a very volatile area, so it's probably okay. Added some more of a patch here, and then I have the wire harness guard and holder in the hot tank right now. It's heating up. Now these guys, this is where I'm at. This is what I wanted to explain. So as you guys can see, these caps here have 2 sets of pins, 7 each, that are on the same circuit. What this is just a 6-to-1 junction connector. So you have one, let's say, ground in or one power in, and then you can run 6 power outs off of it. So that's what these do, and they can do 2 sets apiece. They're an old 90 series, I believe, Sumitomo connector. They are fantastic. They work and they're very easy to assemble. However, they are bulky. So what I'm going to do here is basically cut those wires in half, and then I'm going to junction them connector into a barrel connector, and then put adhesive line shrink wrap on it, and then it'll basically tie up into the harness just like what I did to these guys here. So I'll do it real quick and then kind of show you how it worked. It should be honestly pretty simple and quick to do, so let's do it. Here, that is what this will look like when it's done. I don't know why it's not focusing. So this is what it looks like when it's done. This is what it looks like inside there. So that's just a barrel connector that I crimped with a knockoff DMC tool here. Basically, tools are pretty sweet. It just has 4 2-pointed prongs that come in from either side, and they smash to a preset depth. I guess crimp is the proper word. So that was generally a 16 gauge wire that I just crimped, so I set it to 16. It crimps it super tight with 8 little indents, and then you just throw some shrink wrap on it and finish it up. So anyway, that's just sensor power in, and then this is sensor ground, and this is just ground and power here. So they're just banked together. All you got to do is just cut them in half, throw a barrel connector on it, and then this thing right here, does the same job as this, right? So you see the size difference there. I mean, that's damn near a weight reduction. Anyway, let's do the rest of it, and then I got to finish up this next section of harness right through here. This thing's about ready to run, and it's super soothing when it's doing its thing, so I guess I'll fire this up and get going. That ultrasonic cleaner makes before I flip this thing over, so you can see right here on this bracket how clean it was. The water level was coming right through here. So this ultrasonic cleaner does some serious work, cleans things up really well. I'm going to get a bigger one so I can dunk whole harnesses in it, but yeah, this end still needs to go in. Just wanted to throw that in there before I flip it. Back to the time lapse. Alright, so time for the final show and tell on these bad boys. So as you can see, this junction connector and this junction connector were what were there before. They have been replaced by these. So now this guy right here was the old rear O2 sensor. It may have been AF on this car, but I think it was the rear O2 for catalyst efficiency. And right now I'm going to save this just in case for some reason we end up utilizing these. But no Honda has the ability to turn this into an AF, a wideband AF, so probably never end up using that, but I'm going to keep it just in case because we might. So I'm going to keep this connector, but these guys have been sealed up and are tucked in there, and then these guys will get folded and tucked in, as you'll see here in a minute. Quite a nice package here. So what I'm going to do now in the next time lapse is I'm going to basically finish this area here, then I'll fold these guys over onto it and wrap it up, and then basically join these sections together here, and should be ready to be put back into the car after that. The rest of it looks pretty nice. These here are just replacement RDX injector connectors. If you want to see how to put RDX injectors onto a Honda OBD2 harness from this era, I have a really good write-up on how to do it on Will Spec Wiring on Instagram. So you guys want to check that out. That writes up basically how to use your factory pins and your factory wiring to put RDX injectors in your car. And the jump to a 410cc injector opens up the room for quite a bit of power, and they're a very good spray pattern. So definitely go and check that out if you're thinking about putting bigger injectors in your car. RDX injectors are the way to go, and make sure that you only get them from Honda because there are so many counterfeits out there. So make sure you get your injectors from a dealer, an actual Acura dealer, because there's a lot of counterfeit parts. So if you want a good, genuine Honda part, make sure you get it from Honda. So that being said, I'm going to finish up this harness now. Let's get to it. Huge dog. Dooley. Hi, buddy. That's Dooley the Newfoundland. He's quite the helper. Really good at being a three-dimensional rug. Okay, so a little recap what we did here. Reinforced this, got rid of the sheath on this, or the loom, I call it sheath a lot. Cleaned this up a little bit, and then got a new P-clamp on there, reinforced this area underneath here as well. Reinforced this, and then we've got those junction connectors deleted, and this bracket can go as well because the junction connectors went on that. But I might keep it in case we have to attach something else to it, like the alternator chargeback wire, because I kept that separate out of the rest of the harness because it no longer runs to the fuse box that has since been put in the trash. Reinforce this area a little bit here. So anyway, this is what we're left with. This thing is now ready to go back on the car. I may actually like bundle all the connectors together and then pack the pins with a little dielectric grease so that I can put it in there and clean it. But we'll see. This car experiences a lot of oil. We spill a lot in our haste in the pits and generally just make a huge mess while we're working on this car in the pit. So anyway, that's it for part one. Part two, we'll get started on the dash. And basically what I have to do here is start running inputs and outputs out of that relay box. So I've already got some of it made, actually quite a bit of it made. I've got the radio harness ready to go. This will be really cool, but I'm not going to explain that until I get it in the car. But there's the radio. It's just a little crappy Baofeng, but then we have an amplifier that should help us with a really, really powerful antenna. So that should be good to get us going in the car. Now these two cell phones here are actually pretty cool. One of them is going to be our lap timer and the other one's going to be for the Han data. So we'll have all of our gauges streamed to this phone and then the lap timer to this phone. We'll have a bank of switches here and then a couple of cables here, and then I have data USB coming as well. That'll go there, and the main power switch will go there. So anyway, this is just a mock-up because it has holes in it that don't actually belong. But yeah, I'm really sad those videos of James and I putting this together are gone because he's really good at this. So I hope that he does a little bit more so that we can capture it. But for now, that is the end of this video. Part two is coming up soon, so stay tuned. Promise will be on the track in 72 days. Well, 71 now.